my name is Haley Yoon, and for this past year, I've been conducting independent research on why we vote, the effect of descriptive norms, and holding a minority or majority viewpoint on intention to vote. Under the status quo, almost one-half of eligible U.S. voters consistently choose not to vote at national elections. This is a major issue as low voter turnout impugns the country's fundamental democratic values. As a result of this pressing concern, the purpose of the study was to find ways to increase voter turnout in the future. Descriptive norms describe the typical behavior of other people, and according to the focus theory of normative conduct, social norms play a large role in individuals' behavior. Descriptive norms can be categorized as positive, negative, or neutral. A positive descriptive norm indicates that a lot of people participate in a given activity, while negative descriptive norms describe that few people participate, and a neutral descriptive norm simply states that people do indeed participate in that activity. Previous studies have found conflicting results. Some say that positive descriptive norms are more effective, while others say that negative descriptive norms are more effective in encouraging a behavior. The difference in results may be due to the fact that some studies provided insight on the political views of registered voters in addition to employing descriptive norms, while others did not. The present study served as reconciliation between the differing results by studying the two independent variables of descriptive norms and political insight together to determine under which circumstances positive and negative descriptive norms are more effective. Additionally, I studied the effect of neutral norms as they are a novel field that demands further investigations to understand the nature of its effect on citizens' likelihood to vote. Based on the literature I've read, I hypothesized that positive descriptive norms will lead to higher intention to vote, higher general perception of voting, and higher responsibility to vote in comparison to neutral or negative descriptive norms. I also hypothesized that if a participant has a minority viewpoint, meaning that the number of registered voters representing the participant's political party is low, they will feel more responsibility to vote. I created 9 versions of the experimental stimulus which provided participants with information about an upcoming gubernatorial election in their states. The differences between the 9 versions are indicated by the brackets. In terms of manipulating the descriptive norms, participants were either told that a large percentage, small percentage, or typical number of eligible voters voted at the last election. For manipulating the minority or majority political viewpoint of participants, they were told that either barely 30% of the registered voters are Democrats, which would make the Democratic participants the minority and the Republican participants the majority, or they were told that 70% of the registered voters were Democrats, which would make the Democrat participants a majority and the Republican participants a minority. To measure the participants' intention to vote, there was a one-item scale pertaining to an individual's likelihood of voting at a hypothetical gubernatorial election. To measure the constructs of general perception of voting and self-perceived responsibility to vote, I employed a 4-item scale and a 3-item scale, both of which a Cronbach's alpha analysis revealed to be reliable. As hypothesized, the analysis showed that positive descriptive norms indicating that there was a large turnout at a previous gubernatorial election led to the highest ratings of intention to vote, general perception of voting, and self-perceived responsibility to vote. Interestingly, the effect sizes were enormous, indicating that over 90% of the variance in participants' intention to vote and general perception of voting is accounted for by descriptive norms. The influence of descriptive norms indicates that people's decision to vote or not is almost entirely due to how many other people they believe are voting. In the study, when participants were informed that there was a high voter turnout at a previous gubernatorial election, they felt an inclination to vote as well, so that their behavior is consistent with others. On the contrary, when informed that there was an average or low voter turnout, there was significantly less interest in voting. This suggests that people's yearning for social conformity can be a driving force behind the decisions that they make. Supporting my final hypothesis, the results shown here demonstrate that holding a minority viewpoint does indeed imbue a sense of responsibility to vote. Democrats, who are represented by the blue bars, reported a much greater responsibility to vote when they were described as a 30% minority, while Republicans, represented by the red bars, reported a greater feeling of responsibility when the electorate was described as 70% Democrat, making them the minority. Interestingly, holding a minority viewpoint increased people's feelings of responsibility to vote, but did not affect their intention to vote, nor did it affect their general perception of voting. This shows us that although citizens became more conscious of the fact that they should vote, this is not guaranteed that they will employ this into practice. One limitation of the study was that participants only had the options of Democrat or Republican when selecting their political affiliations. Therefore, it is possible that participants did not completely associate with either party and selected the party that they identified with slightly more. Additionally, participants were not asked to denote how extreme their political affiliation was. In the future, I plan to replicate this study and measure the extremity of participants' political affiliation, as well as provide more political affiliation options, as these findings could provide deeper insight into the psychology behind citizens' votes. Furthermore, participants held a majority viewpoint in the election when 70% of the registered voters shared the same political view, and they held a minority viewpoint when 30% of the registered voters shared the same political view. However, incorporating a wider array of percentages in the future may grant us greater insight into how much of an effect a minority or a majority viewpoint has on citizens' likelihood to vote. For instance, if the difference between the two results was low, such as a 51% majority and a 49% minority, would the results of the study change in any way? This study suggests that positive descriptive norms may be beneficial when attempting to increase voter turnout. When encouraging citizens to vote, politicians could present campaign ads with positive descriptive norms and include information about citizens' minority viewpoint in situations where it is true. This can ultimately help to overcome the grave threat that low voter turnout presents on democracy, especially since a majority of non-voters are marginalized minority members, such as Blacks and Asians. Greater participation in elections and a greater voice in government may lead to progress in overcoming hate crimes that are unfortunately so prevalent in modern society.